Hello there, science fans. This is Diatom Dave, coming to you from the Fun Science Cheltenham testing lab. And boy, do I have some super seasonal science for you. Now, it's already mid-September, which means we're right at the start of autumn. And along with short, cold, cloudy, rainy days, autumn also brings these. Horse chestnuts. However, horse chestnuts have another name, and that name is conkers. And as well as growing new horse chestnut trees, conkers are also really good for smashing into each other to crown the champion of the playground. Yes, well, now what you may not know is that there are conker clubs all around the UK, and there's even a World Conker Championship, which is held in Britain every year. In this championship, players are only allowed to use raw, natural conkers like these. However, when I was little and I used to play conkers, I would cheat. And what I would do is I would bake my conker in the oven, or I would pickle it in vinegar, or if I was feeling really sneaky, I would paint it with nail varnish. I was never really sure if any of these things actually helped. Fortunately, science can answer that question. Now, the experiments we do at Fun Science are fun, but we don't often learn something new. If we are going to do proper research, we need to be a little bit more thorough. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to test which hardening method, if any, gives us a world-conquering conker. So I'm going to use some advice I found on the internet to harden some conkers and see what happens. Now, there's a lot of argument about how to do this, but there are two hardening methods which I saw come up again and again. Number one, paint the conker with varnish and allow it to dry. And number two, pickle the conker in vinegar and then bake it in the oven. Both of these are meant to harden the shell and give you a conker that's more resistant to smashing. So now we have what's called our research question. Which method, if any, makes our conker more durable? The varnish method or the pickling and baking method? That's what we want to test. Now, whether or how we harden the conker is what we call a variable. And if we're being really sciencey about this, we have to think about other variables which might make our conker break sooner or later. Because if you think about it, all sorts of things could affect how quickly a conker breaks in combat. It could be, for instance, that the size of the conker makes a difference. Or it could be a question of how hard you whack the conker. These, I think, are the two big things which could give us a false or confusing result. But there is a solution. What we have to do is control for these variables. What that means is we have to take account of the size of the conker and the force that's used and try and make that constant throughout the experiment. That way we can be pretty sure that it wasn't the size or the force that made the conker break quicker or slower. It was actually the hardening technique. So the other day I went and found a whole bunch of conkers, grouped them by size and then picked the best ones for the experiment. This is what I ended up with. So there are 9 conkers in 3 different groups. Here are the little ones, and these are all about 25 millimeters across. The medium ones are all about 35 millimeters across, and the large ones are all about 45 millimeters across. So 25, 35 and 45. Now, I'm going to separate these into 3 groups with 1 large, 1 medium and 1 small in each group. One of these groups will be treated with varnish. Another group will be pickled and then baked, and a third group will have nothing done to it at all. This is what we call our control group. These are the natural conkers that the World Conker Championship demands. In this way, we should be able to say whether a varnished or baked conker is harder and more durable than a natural conker. We have a conker of each size in each group, so that won't be an issue. And to ensure that every conker gets whacked just the same, I'm not going to put them on a string and smash them into each other. I'm going to use a very complicated testing device. This ruler and this tin of beans. Why am I doing it this way? Well, The tin of beans weighs about 500 grams or half a kilogram. That's not going to change as we do the experiment. The ruler makes sure that I drop the tin of beans from the same height each time. Now, that means the tin will be travelling at the same speed. And if you know the weight of the tin and how fast it's moving, then you can work out the force being applied to each conker, or how hard it's being whacked. Now, we don't really need to know what the force is, just that it's the same every time. And with this very scientific apparatus, we can be sure that it is. Now, in this beaker, I have some vinegar. So I'm going to take conker group number 1, little, medium and large, and put them into the vinegar. Now, the instructions I found online said leave the conkers in the vinegar for 2 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. And while I do that, I'm going to take my nail varnish and apply it to conker group number 2. Don't tell my wife I'm doing this because this is her nail varnish. I didn't ask to borrow it. It's very sticky, this nail varnish. Oh, and it smells horrible. The things we do for science, eh? There we go. I've painted my 3 conkers with nail polish. And the third group, if you remember, is what we call the control group. So these are the natural conkers that we're not going to harden. The next thing to do is to take our vinegar conkers and our varnish conkers and pop them in the oven. Now, the instructions say for no more than 1 minute and 30 seconds at 250 degrees. So the oven is preheating now. Let's get these on a baking tray. So here's our baking tray, nice and hot. And I've put some foil on there so that I don't ruin it with nail polish. So put the conkers on in 2 separate groups so you don't get them confused. Stick them in the oven for 90 seconds. Here we go. Now, some other advice I read said to bake the conkers at a very low temperature overnight, but we don't have time for that. And a lot of people seem to think that the only way to really harden a conker is to leave it in a dark place for a whole year. That's right, choose your champions now and battle them next year. But that's far too long. So hopefully one of these methods will work. While we're waiting, do find Fun Science Cheltenham on social media. You'll find us on Facebook at facebook.com/funsciencecheltenham, Instagram at instagram.com/funsciencecheltenham, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Diatom Dave. Now, the conkers are out of the oven and they're looking pretty good. If you're doing this at home, please do be careful because they come out quite hot. So group number 1 was vinegar conkers. These have been pickled in vinegar for about 2 minutes and then baked in the oven for about 1.5 minutes. Group 2 is the varnish conkers. So these were coated in clear nail varnish and then baked in the oven for about 90 seconds. Group 3, of course, is our natural, unhardened conker group, or, as scientists call it, the control. Now, we're going to start with our control group and see how many drops of the bean tin from 30 centimeters it takes to cause even a little crack in the shell. I'm going to start small and go big. How many drops will it take to break the conker? 3, 2, 1. That's 1 drop. Whoa. 2. Still looking pretty good. This could take a while. I spoke too soon. 5 drops is what it took, and there it is, a big split in our conker shell. So, natural conker, not hardened, small size, 5 drops. Now I'm going to do the rest with the other 2 sizes and record the results. Now, there's definitely a dent in this conker, but it hasn't yet split, so it's still good. Fight on, little conker. Ah! We have a split. we have a split. So 11. 11 drops and the medium conker split wide open. Okay, 5 and 11. Big conker, it's your time to shine. The tin is getting quite dented. Make sure you don't get your conkers mixed up. Ooh, it's split. 7. 7 drops of the tin and it's split. So we have 5 for the little one, 11 for the middle one, and 7 for the big one. So that's our control group out of the way. We'll note down those results and move on to the vinegar group. So here's the vinegar group, starting with the smallest conker. We're going to do the same again and see what results we get. Oh, wow! 1 drop and that small conker split right open. Oh dear! Vinegar is not doing well so far. On to the medium one.
Oh my goodness!
The medium-sized one has gone exactly the same way. 1 drop and the shell has split open. This is not looking good for pickling and baking. Well, I thought this would take much longer. Big conker it is, let's see what happens. Good grief, this is unexpected. Conker number 3 in the vinegar group, 1 drop from the bean tin and it is broken. I think we can say that pickling and baking does not make your conker a winner. Well, group number 3, varnish. Let's see what happens. Starting with the small conker. This is really interesting. One drop and it's gone. It's gone. It's like a turtle's mouth.
My mother was a horse chestnut, but my dad was a tortoise.
Medium-sized conker, varnish, let's go. 30 centimetre drop height, 500 gram tin. Let's see what happens. It's gone. 1 drop and you are out of there. Here it is, last test, big conker, varnish group. Let's see what happens. Well, it survived 1. It survived 2. Yeah, that's definitely gone. That was 4. 4 drops on that one, and it's split wide open. Well, that was interesting and unexpected. I believed, based on what I'd read on the internet, that treating your conkers with varnish or with vinegar would make them champions, world beaters. But the science shows that that's just not true. Here are the results to remind you. As you can see, our control group did much better than either the varnished or the vinegar group. The control conkers survived for a total of 23 hits, which is massive compared with the varnish group, which only took 6 hits, and the vinegar group, which could only take 3. We used different size conkers in each group and a very scientific apparatus to make sure that each conker got the same whack. So we've shown with science that you shouldn't believe everything that you read on the internet. And if you want to be Conker World Champion, you're best off obeying the rules and using an all-natural horse chestnut. Now, scientists tend to be quite cautious people, and when they do an experiment and they get some results, they don't tend to say, this is how it is. What they tend to say is, this is what we found, you should try the same. And that's the great thing about science and using a proper scientific method, like this, sort of. It means that you can do the same experiment in exactly the same way and see if your results match mine. If you do decide to try this, then please find us on social media and share your results so we can answer once and for all the age-old question of how to craft a world-beating conker. Thank you for tuning in to Fun Science Cheltenham. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye!